Do you guys know who Hassan Campbell is?
I don't think so.
See, is it the guy with the Cuban chain?
Yeah.
So I don't know about his relevance in the hip hop community, but my first impression of this guy was on a podcast that he was with Whack
100, yeah,
academics.
Yep,
and
that was a great pod.
And 6ix9ine, and this guy was talking about it's okay. My bad. It's a very touching subject in terms of.
This is exactly what this video is about.
Yeah, it's a very touching subject. You know what I mean? Like I'm not laughing at.
Spit it out, nigga.
I'm not laughing at the fact that he's talking about kids being essayed and stuff like that, and the people that essay them are being protected and blah 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 blah. But it's just. The way that the conversation,
what happened in the conversation is, so Hassan Campbell is basically, he's a YouTuber from New York. Yeah. He's like, he's known for putting in work back in the day. He has, street rep, you know what I'm saying? And he just speaks his mind in a way where he's kind of denouncing the streets with also the street kind of like flavor to it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So he's one of those old street niggas who have their perspective now that they're older. Mm-hmm. So that clip that you were talking about, they were making fun of Hassan Campbell because there is one of the old pioneer hip hop legends, Afrika Bambaataa, has passed away.
Oh, okay.
Afrika Bambaataa was a serial molester.
Oh. Damn.
Right? And it was very known. But he's a very famous, if you talk to a lot of people from the 90s and stuff, lots of them know and they love Afrika Bambaataa. He's a legend. Whoa. I don't know any songs by him, but he is a certified legend from the way they speak about him, right? Mm-hmm. That was one of his youngins. And he was being molested. Hassan Campbell was being molested by Afrika Bambaataa.
Yeah.
So the thing is, Whack 100 was saying that he liked it because he kept on going back.
Ooh. But did he say that? Did he say that he said this after that pod?
He said that after, but he also said it to his face, but in a less there was a lot of arguing that pod. But what I'm saying is that there was a big deal over Whack was like, I said that to your face, you ain't do shit, nigga. Like it was a lot of that type of shit.
Yeah.
But but this clip is Afrika Bambaataa recently passed away. And he said, this is basically him saying that he's going to go live and he's going to drop a video talking about his feelings about it. The reason why it's kind of controversial is because I think that people, including Whack, I'm happy you brought that up, is because things like that invalidate the process of how these things happen. He was being molested at a young age and he was being groomed. You know what I'm saying? So he was a shooter / being molested. So, you know what I'm saying? They had a little gangsta ass nigga putting in the work and then they were touching him and shit. He was somebody who didn't have a support system, didn't have family like that. Somebody who was a lost kid, you know what I'm saying? And they took advantage of that in any way that they could. And people wonder why he went back and kind of looks at that guy kind of like a father figure, the person who was molesting him. But they don't understand the dynamics of it. Wasn't just come here, little nigga. Da, da, da. It takes a lot of manipulation and grooming in order to make a kid feel comfortable and to feel you know what? They don't always understand what's going on. And even if you're at an older age, going into your teens, when you're groomed into that, and Afrika Bambaataa is somebody who's idolized, people fail to comprehend why you would go back and they just assume that you are gay and you liked it. You know what I'm saying? And that's been the number one shot at him. And there may be truth in it. Who knows? But all I'm saying is that I try not to invalidate the experience of a victim. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think for my perspective on that is that I think the reaction to his statements and what he's talking about plays into toxic masculinity. Yep, because 100%. If this was a woman expressing how, she was essayed, but she didn't really have any father figure or any family structure.
All the sympathy.
Bare super sympathy. We would not be bashing her, telling her that she liked it. Even when a woman is getting abused in a toxic relationship and she's still in that abusive relationship, it's not her fault. A lot of times there's a lot of mental shit and trauma that goes into her staying in that. Yeah. I mean, Stockholm syndrome is a real thing.
I feel like they be throwing that shit out there a little bit too much, though. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like some of that shit is taking away from accountability. That's why I didn't want to rule out the fact that he might have liked it a little bit, because apparently he was going back up to 15 years old type shit. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like at 15 years old, I understand the grooming aspect of it, and that's probably the biggest part of it. But there might have been a part where it's just anatomy, gay guys like sex for a reason. Maybe he was I don't know exactly the sexual acts he was doing.
Right. Yeah, but at the same time, I also want to because he was so young, because we were having that conversation about like being that young, your brain isn't really developed. So him being sexually like,
especially if it started when he was younger, and then it like developed like how like that's probably so confusing for him.
Especially because like you're going through like the beginning of your puberty at that time, right?
What do they call it again? Your
prepubescent?
Nah, not prepubescent. It's your adolescence.
Adolescence.
Yeah, and like I mean, as niggas, we know that like that's when you start to understand like what pleasure is. You know what I'm saying? So that
all got fucked up by this person.
We kind of had the conversation before the video played, but let's still play the video.
Yeah.
I just want to take the time out to say, rest in peace to the greatest child predator who ever walked this earth, Afrika Bambaataa. Before there was an Epstein list, there was an Afrika Bambaataa's Black Book. Before there was an R. Kelly, my mind is telling me no, but my body is telling me yeah. Yeah, before there was an R. Kelly, raised by Dr. York, one of the greatest predators that ever walked this earth. Rest in peace to Afrika Bambaataa, the greatest child predator ever. I'm going live at 5.
What? That was so confusing. But I also can feel the
you can see that he's emotional about it.
like not just the emotion, but just the statement, rest in peace to the.
I was thinking what you guys were thinking about the rest in peace part.
It's like
to the greatest child.
So it's like there's
to
like
ever walk this earth.
There's like it's very fuck. I'm not as well versed in English like those English gentlemen, but I kind of want to say like contrast. Like there's like a very strong contrast between those two statements, because you say rest in peace to someone who you respect and you cared about, but at the same time putting that at the end of it, it's like shit. Like how's this nigga feeling? You know what I mean?
He's definitely. I feel like there's not only hate in there.
That's my point. That's kind of why. But it's like the English
the
isn't
rest
coming
in
out.
peace, and even saying the greatest anything. Yeah, I feel like there is. And remember, he wasn't only just a person. He was a celebrity. You know what I'm saying? Right. He was a huge hip hop artist, one of the founders, one of the biggest people of the early hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So he was idolized. So I do feel like there is some pain and resentment and hate, but I also do feel like there is some love in there because he was probably also a father figure to him growing up as well.
That's so fucked, bro.
So it's probably so conflicting inside when he dies, because it's just like, yo, fuck that nigga, but at the same time, I loved that nigga.
Yeah, that's so fucked, bro.
God damn.
I think it's a very deep, touchy situation. I actually do watch Hassan Campbell's content from time to time. He, as you could tell, when he randomly started singing R. Kelly, like he randomly breaks out into like song in terms of like his references. So he'll just, but it's not usually R&B. It's usually like some rap, like Jay-Z, Biggie, like New York rap, Jadakiss, like you know. And one of his things is like, before that nigga got his snot box rocked. Yeah, he says, when he talks about niggas getting killed, he's like, before that nigga got his snot box rocked. He has a couple sayings.
Okay.
You know, but he's an entertaining YouTuber and he's very serious, talks about very serious topics. And I don't agree with everything he says or his point of views on everything, but I do think that he's a good YouTuber overall. And shout out to Hassan Campbell. I watched his video after he went live. I watched some of it and everything. And like, you know, he has a lot to say. I recommend that anybody who's interested in these type of topics and whatnot, watch that. You know what I'm saying? So
that's pretty sad, man.
It is mad sad, bro.
It's so sad.
Super mad sad. That's why when Wax said that shit, I'm just like, yo, that's crazy to get at someone with something like that. Like, you know, like there's so much layers to it.
Yeah.
You chat too much. Chat too much. Chat too much. Chat too much.